Hello again. I wanted to make this video as we head into the new semester, just to go over some ideas about what it's like to figure out credits for our high schoolers. Um, if they were in public school, somebody would be doing all of that for us, or private school or whatever, creating those transcripts, but it kind of falls on us to do that. And there are a lot of ways to do that. I wanted to share with you the way I do it, just in case it could be helpful for you. Okay, so taking a step back, if something is for like a high school credit, it is supposed to reflect about 150 hours worth of work, 75 for a half credit, which would be like a semester's worth of work. Okay, so this is not an exact science, right? Some kids work faster, some kids work slower. All of that is totally okay. But in theory, one credit is about 150 hours worth of work in that subject area. Now, again, that is a loose framework. It's not something that you have to follow exactly, but it's kind of a good way to gauge whether or not we're doing an appropriate amount in an area. Now, if you buy a boxed curriculum, that's kind of already been factored in for you. The curriculum company created about that much work for your child to do. So if you buy curriculum already figured out and you do the majority of that curriculum, because none of us do all of it, right? But if you do the majority of that curriculum, you're looking at 150 hours worth of work if it was a full credit, 75 hours worth of work for a half credit, right? Okay, so hopefully we're all on the same page and kind of understanding how they come up with that. If you don't have a box curriculum, which is really the majority of how I do my schooling with my kids, then now we kind of have to figure it out for ourselves and make sure we're giving them enough content. Okay, so let's briefly touch on the astronomy class because this is one way you could do it. Okay, so if your kids are signed up for astronomy this year, they can use that as their science. And that's really exciting. But if all they do is show up to class every Thursday for an hour for the 27 weeks of the semester, that's only 27 hours worth of work. We can't really give them a half credit or a full credit for that. Miss Misty has come up with some really great homework assignments, projects that they're going to be doing, some field trips and movie days. I think they're watching Hidden Figures and a couple of other movies that relate to astronomy and space exploration. And so that will add up to quite a bit more if you're able to attend all of those, right? It starts adding up. And then a lot of our families that are signed up for it, at least, I think four of us, at least four families, also bought Life Packs astronomy curriculum. Now, this is listed on their website as a half credit. Okay, so we're going to do this, but that only gives us that half credit, 75 hours. So now we're trying to get 75 more hours. Well, we do 27 hours of class time. We do the field trips, the movies, and the projects. And we probably will get pretty close to that 150 hours or the 75 in addition to the half credit. And if not, I might need to do a few more things with my kids where, if we're not able to make every field trip or whatever it might be, or they do simpler projects based on their skill level, and maybe they don't quite get those 75 additional hours plus the workbooks, well, then I supplement. Maybe they read the book that inspired the movie Hidden Figures, or we do an additional field trip just as a family, or whatever it might be. So that's kind of how you can stack things on top of each other and get those credits. Okay, so I mentioned that it's not an exact science, but here's why I went ahead and made it an exact amount of 150 hours for a full credit, 75 for a half credit, because I want my kids to take responsibility for keeping track of their own hours, their own credit. This is just a really important skill. And I'm a mom of six, right? I struggle to make sure I know exactly how much every one of my kids have done. And I like personalizing their education. So they're not all necessarily watching the same documentaries or reading the same books because their skill levels are different. Their interests are different. So, my youngest who's doing astronomy might be able to read a book that's more at a younger age level. And so it just doesn't take her as long. Well, my child that reads a more complicated book, they should get more hours for reading that book. And so what I've done, and I have Luke's here for an example, What I've done is I've given them these 6 subject notebooks. You can see on here the list of the subjects they'll be studying. I love these notebooks from Amazon because the pages are actually colorful. And I don't know if my kids appreciate that, but man, I love a colorful notebook. So I own a ton of these. But what they do is, and I can open up to, let's see, here's the astronomy because they already started on it because we went and listened to a speaker at the Ark Encounter talking about aliens and whether or not there's scientific evidence for aliens. It was a 45-minute talk, and so Luke opened up his notebook to the section on astronomy, and he wrote down, this is what we did. It was 45 minutes long, and then in this column, they keep a total, okay? And some of these, he has a lot more. So ancient literature, he'd been working on that for quite a while, and you can see he needed 300 more minutes. He needed 5 more hours to complete this when we started this school year, because this was kind of a remnant from last year. And so he keeps track of all the things he's doing. And over here, he's keeping track of the total minutes. And when he hits the required number of minutes, guess what? He's done. I put it on his transcript. And I'm not doing all the figuring. He is keeping track of his own work. He's seeing his own progress. And so this is super, super helpful. The last thing I want to talk about, if you are in my history unit class, so this year it's called Romans, Reformers, and Revolutionaries. I list that as a unit because they could potentially get credits in Bible, English, social studies, art history, music history, whatever it is, Bible, whatever it is you want your child, did I say Bible? Anyway, whatever it is you want your child to get credits in, they can do that through this unit study. Okay, so they can absorb information about these topics in a bunch of different ways. I would like to give an example from last year. Last year we did the ancient world. It was awesome. We had such a great time in that class. And so I'm going to give an example of a project I recommended. Nobody took me up on this, but a really cool project. What if someone decided to do a project based on Psalm 23? And in their project was an art project inspired by the art types from the ancient Hebrew world. So they looked up what ancient Hebrew art looked like, and they replicated that style of art in a representation of Psalm 23. And it took them 5 hours to do the project. Okay? Where could they write down? Which of the tabs would they be able to write it on? Well, guess what? The Bible is literature. So for their ancient literature credit, 5 hours. The Bible is history. So for ancient history, 5 hours. The Psalms, obviously in the Bible, 5 hours toward Bible. All right. Now, here's where it gets really cool. They were looking at ancient music. The Psalms were written as songs, right? Okay, so now they have 5 hours toward their ancient music study, right? A music history credit in ancient music. And because they looked at the way Hebrew art was at that time and used that as inspiration for their project, they also just got 5 hours of credit toward their art history, ancient art credit. All right, now, very rarely does a project check every single box like that one. That was just a really good example. And again, none of my students took me up on this offer to do this as their project, but whatever it is. So the cool thing though is you can double up. So anything that they read in the Old Testament, because we were looking at the ancient world, right? Anything they read from the Old Testament right off the bat counted toward Bible, literature, and history, right? It's those 3 things. So they spent a couple of hours and read through the entire book of Genesis. That time counted toward all 3 of those credits. My son watched a documentary about the historical accuracies of Homer's The Odyssey. It was a 2-hour-long documentary. It was very well done. He enjoyed it. And guess what? Those 2 hours counted toward literature because it's Homer's The Odyssey, and history because it talked about the historical significance and accuracy of that writing. Okay, so don't be intimidated when you look at that history and I say, oh, you can get up to, what is that? Literature, Bible, history, art history, music history, 5 credits. Okay, you can get up to 5 credits taking this class. That does not mean 5 times 150 hours because that's insanity. All right, so we're not doing that. Combine your efforts. Find things that can apply toward both. Now with this unit, we're looking at the early church and the late Roman Empire here at the beginning of the year. And so, if they're reading through the book of Acts, guess what? history, literature, Bible. It's going to be fantastic. Um, so, anyway, I just wanted to share with you how we do our credits here in our family, just because this system has worked extremely well because I'm balancing so many kids trying to get credits at the same time, and I'm trying to teach responsibility. I want them to be accountable for the things that they are doing. That's how we do it here. And again, sometimes it's a boxed curriculum, and so we don't have to keep track of those hours. You'll see at the top of the astronomy page, right off the bat, I had written down that he only needs 75 hours for astronomy because we are using life packs, half credit on astronomy for the other 75 hours. All right, if you have any questions at any time about any of this, please let me know. I love helping people. I love sharing what we do. And I love learning from you guys on the things that are working well for you. So if you ever have anything you want to share with the group, please do that. It's going to be a great year, and I can't wait to spend it with all of you. Bye.